All right, so I had put the video on pause, but my phone screen, went out, and I came back, and then it ended the recording. So I'm doing part two. Okay. So, like I said, we talk about projection. All right, let's talk about projection, particularly in the psychological term. Is when somebody's a certain way, they will try to project who they are onto you, particularly if it's negative and they know that it's negative, right? So instead of uh, people looking at them with the negative issue and judging them, they don't want that, so they will project that onto you, right? Somebody else could take the blame for them, right? And this is what you see this happening when I talk about how we as TIs, how they try to project who they are onto us. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So when they want to try to claim that, oh, Nigel is jealous and he's abusive and all that stuff, all the lies. It's all lies. Okay. And when you look at the truth, okay, and this comes from Farley.com, okay, and there's other sources I'm going to show you guys too, so, because it's not just going to be one, right? And what it says police and violence at home. Cops abuse wife and kids at staggering rates. Okay, and because they're in law enforcement, the vast majority of them get away with it. Okay, these are the same people who will show up at somebody's door, right, for domestic abuse and domestic violence, and will arrest that individual, whether it be a man or a woman. Okay, these same individuals. So when I talk about criminal with badges, I know what I'm talking about. I don't live in America with blinders on. I used to. Okay, but in my late 20s up until this point, listen, as we as TIs, we know we have been the most eye-opening individuals. Okay, some of the most eye-opening individuals. Wasn't said the most, but some of the most eye-opening individuals, you know, in the world. Period. Okay. So it says it remains an open secret. Again, it remains an open secret that police domestic abuse is a widespread and deeply entrenched problem. And this not just goes for that, but this goes for other areas, from drug dealing, from sex trafficking, from rape, from murder. Okay, financial crimes against civilians. All right. So I'm not going to read the article. You guys can go look it up yourself. I'm going to pause this video again. I'll come back with another article on this. Okay. So here's another article from the Atlantic, and I'm just going to read the title of the article. I might read a paragraph or a couple sentences, and that's it. Okay. So the Atlantic. Oh, sorry for moving the the camera, but I gotta move it. Police have a much bigger domestic abuse problem than the NFL. Research suggests that family violence is 2 to 4 times higher in the law enforcement community than in the general population. So where's the public outrage? As with many other things, right? It's because we've been conditioned. That's why there's no public outrage about these things. Okay, come back with another. So, okay, now another article. Right, this is from the Voice of San Diego.org. It talks about public safety. Isn't that what they try to use us against us TIs to label us, right? Public safety, national security, all these other things, right? Let's talk about public safety, right? Because apparently, when the cops are out there murdering innocent people, they don't talk about public safety or national security. and the white supremacists within the police department, the higher ups and the white supremacists within the higher ups of the U.S. government, commit uh, domestic crimes, terroristic crimes. They don't talk about public safety and national security. Okay, so let's let's read. Police officers who commit violent domestic violence often get to keep their guns. A 6 month investigation by a nationwide coalition of news organizations found cops who are accused of committing a litany of violent behavior routinely plead down to nonviolent misdemeanors. Those softer charges can allow abusive officers to keep their guns and keep enforcing the law in the Golden State. The news organization's review found more than a third of the officers charged with domestic violence were able to plead to nonviolent charges that allowed them to keep their guns. Okay, I'll be back with another one. Again, I'm just giving you guys a little sample of this. So, you know, again, when I talk about the projection, I know what I'm talking about. Okay, now this is an article from The Hill, and this is July 2nd, 2020. We must include domestic violence by police in police reform. So why, and again, there's a question here. These people, we talk about police reform, right? But police violence, particularly even domestic violence, is staggering. Staggering. But again, because we've been conditioned to see law enforcement as a tool that's supposed to be used for protection, but more often the case is the opposite. It's a tool used to terrorize, to murder, to commit a vast litany of crimes against marginalized people, particularly black people, in the United States. So again, as TIs, we have to understand is that when they're trying to make you believe a narrative that's not you, you show them the truth. Because the one thing that they are afraid of is the truth. The one thing that they're afraid of is the exposure of their criminality, of the crimes that they've been committing against you and I. Okay, now, this is from the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. Title: Nowhere to Run. Nowhere to Turn. Uh, women said domestic abuse by police officers goes unpunished. Okay. So this is one late summer evening. Debbie cracked after weeks of deliberating. She phoned Merseyside police to report her partner for serious allegation of physical and verbal abuse. It was a decision she would soon regret. The problem, she said, is that he was an officer with the same force. He used to say the police would protect him, and if I phoned up against him, he'd just get me put in prison, she said. One day it was too much, and I did phone. In hindsight, that was the biggest mistake of my life. Okay, domestic abuse is often predicated on fear of what your abuser will do next, fear that you're going mad, fear that no one will believe you. Many of those affected are understandably afraid of how their partner will react if they report them. So some do so anyway. So what happens when your abuser is part of the system that's supposed to protect you? Again, I'm just not gonna go through reading the whole thing because, like I said, and as a TI, I'm talking to TIs here. I keep saying this, right? As a TI, you have to understand how these people create a narrative and then condition you to and for that narrative so that they can abuse you, they can experiment on you, and they get away with it because of the villainization process that happens. And it's imperative, and I can't stress this enough, it's imperative that you understand your targeting and how you're targeted. Okay? Don't focus so much on in terms of the reason. Focus much on how to survive what's being done to you. Okay? How to expose it. And those who are involved in human rights abuse, in the non-consensual experimentation abuse, illegal microchipping, the violation of your right as a sovereign person, the violation of your constitutional rights, your civil rights, and your human rights. And it is a fear-based programming using fear-based tactics, manipulation, psychological manipulation, and projectionism. All right, so with that said, I bid you guys a good night. I'll see you guys in the next video.